Today I'm going to show you how to install version 8 of Felix's Moteino IoT framework. If you're installing from a previous version on your Raspberry Pi, you're going to want to go ahead and open a program like WinSCP and go into your Raspberry Pi and back up at least your metrics and settings files. Once you've done that, then you can remove the micro SD card from the Raspberry Pi 2 or whatever Raspberry Pi you're using and prepare the card for formatting and installation of the new version. Now I'll use a program called SD Formatter. It's a free program you can download from the web to format the micro SD card. So just throw it in there. Mostly check these defaults. We got a quick format, size adjustment off. When you're ready, hit format. It'll give you a little warning. Just hit OK. Erases everything, of course. And that's it. I got a 32 gig hard micro SD card formatted to FAT32, which is what we need. Next thing we do is go to Felix's Low Power Lab website. Go to the pre-built image link here, and then choose this to download the latest image. It's trying to go to a Google Drive. Won't do a preview, so if you just click that download, it will pop another window and warn you that it can't check for viruses. We're just going to go ahead and download, and it will take down the image as a zip file. That took a while. That was a huge file, 1.3 gigabytes. With my non-fancy pants internet connection, it took several minutes. So let's open that zip file up. Can't see my whole screen here, but that's okay. I'm just going to extract it, and I need to get that image file extracted, so go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on to the next step. So after doing the unzip, we've actually got two files extracted. One is a must read, which I would say you really should must read it, because Felix put a lot of good information in here that we need, especially like the username and password by default and some other information that's important about knowing which your gateway Moteino is going to be, if it's on USB or whatnot. So take a look at this file too. But what you want to do now is put this image file onto my SD card. To do that, I'm going to use a program that's also free called Win32 Disk Imager. You just have to find your file here and define what the target drive is going to be. So let's take a look here. My downloads, I'm going to go into this and this, hit open, and then get that window back up. My target is my H drive, and then I'm just going to hit write, and that will write it to my 32 gigabyte micro SD card. So this will take some time, and we'll let this run and pick up on the next step. As a side note, I wanted to mention, if you wanted to set up Wi-Fi, if I have a Wi-Fi dongle on your Raspberry Pi, there's a good description of how to do that at this website, raspberrypi.org, so I'll include that link in my descriptions below. But I wouldn't get into that at this point. I want to make sure that this thing works when it's plugged in by wire on Ethernet. So let's go ahead and take a look here at this Moteino dashboard. On my Raspberry Pi, I have plugged in a Moteino USB, which is for me the easiest way to get a gateway Moteino hooked up. But I'm going to have to go ahead and click that little settings wheel you saw me click there, and it opens up in the GUI this other page, and I need to define and tell it that I'm actually not hooked in through the GPIO ports. I'm plugged in through USB. So if you go back and recall, we mentioned in the must reads, there is a line about doing that. It says if you're using USB serial port, you have to do PTTY USB XXX. Well, what is the XXX? That's for you to figure out right on your particular Raspberry Pi. So to do that, you can come in here into WinSCP, for example, and launch a separate command line in PuTTY, and use the default password still is Raspberry to get into the command line. And then there's two ways to do this. You can do a LS USB, and the device actually is sitting down here. This future technology, that's my Moteino with this hardware identifier 0403. But to see which USB it's on, you can do this message or command called DMESG and then a pipe symbol with a space, GREP, then a space, TTY, USB. Hit enter. And you can see from looking at the results of that command, I'm on TTY USB 0. Okay, so we'll come into our settings and we have to modify this and say that we are TTY USB 0. And if I just tab away from that, it's really just going to save there. There's no, other than this button here, it should be entered in when I hit save. And so now I know that my Moteino USB should be talking to the Raspberry Pi. Now the funny thing about this JavaScript and this program is that even though you've changed the settings to have the USB included as the Moteino gateway, it's not really reading it in yet, because I can tell on my side I tried to install a new network node that should show up automatically once I send a data packet to the gateway, but it doesn't. The reason is because it needs to be restarted, the JavaScript itself. So to do that, you could just reboot your Raspberry Pi, but that takes a while. So a quicker way to do it is just to use from the command line this pkill node command. And when you do that, you'll see that my Moteino gateway is going to go down for just a couple seconds. So there it goes. I issued the pkill node, and it's waiting for a socket connection. And then after some time, you see it comes back up. So basically that's like performing a restart on our gateway dashboard. So now when I go here, let me go ahead and hit one of my Moteino light switches and you'll see what happens. Here we go. Alright, so there it is. It's number 69 is the node ID number. It's not identified as anything, so I have to go ahead and click on it and configure it. It's one of these light switches, and I can say it is node 69 in living room, for example, like that. And that's all you need to do. I can come back here then, and you'll see now it's configured. If I want to, I can remotely turn it on and off. I've just hit on, the light came on. You can't see that, but it actually did it, it performed it, and now it's actually updating the status to on, and conversely can turn it off. But what I want to do is show you guys how to make your own little sensor node that'll work without even having to create a brand new one that'll work with one of these. So let's go ahead and do that next. Now to create a node that is going to work with our gateway, I'm going to use one of my sample codes that I will post in the info box below this video. It's a sketch that in my home updates the status of the house voltage. It measures the voltage every 5 minutes, but I've modified this code slightly so that it updates it, let's say let's go for every 10 seconds. So this is actually in milliseconds, so 1 second is 1,000 seconds, so we need 10,000 seconds. The important things to know about this sketch are the following. You have to ensure that you have these libraries, which are built into the CodeBender website, so that's not a problem. Your gateway Moteino should have the node ID number 1. This particular node that I'm going to upload to this example is going to be node number 48, which is important to keep in mind. And then the gateway Moteino and this Moteino that's our target node should both have the same network ID of 101. The other things to keep in mind is you have to have one of these 3 lines uncommented to match your Moteino. I'm using a 915 megahertz version, so that's why I'm set up like this. The encryption keys need to match between this node and what my gateway node's encryption key are, otherwise they won't talk to each other. If you're using RFM69HW, which is a little bit higher output radio, you uncomment that. And that's about all you need to know. And then what we're going to do is make sure our COM port is right. We're set up for Moteino. And then basically, if you run on Arduino, it's going to compile that code and it's going to send it down. I'm connected by FTDI connector to my Moteino. So it's downloading it right now as we speak. The lights are flashing and it looks like things are going fine. And then it returns the upload successful message. After that, I will go over to my Moteino gateway dashboard. You can see here again. And if you recall, that was number 48. So there's number 48 that already sent a message and it's been received. It's sending, it doesn't know how to say it. It's a voltage. It's just by default picking that it's a degrees, thinks 36 volts has been measured. It's a floating input right now. So this, again, was just for confirmation that I have a working connection between my gateway Moteino and this node Moteino number 48 that I just flashed. So that was successful. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and like. Also, please click on the subscribe for my channel. If you subscribe, you'll be notified automatically of my new videos coming out as they're released. If you have any other questions here about the automation gateway, please visit the lowpowerlab.com forum. As you can see here, and click on Pi Gateway. There's lots of discussion here about the Moteinos and Raspberry Pis and getting things set up. Thanks again for watching John's DIY Playground. Hope you have a great day.